This might someday be restored into a pretty resource, but not now. Go down here to see a building I saw, which I think is another monastery that's very pretty. There are fish actually swimming in this. I'm inside of this very large monastery complex, Masoi or something like that. This is a very imposing building, but it's clearly a modern building when you look at it. But it looks really good from across the canal, which runs back and forth. And this clock tower is curious because it's something you'd more normally expect to see in Europe. But they have them here. This is one of the few places I've seen in Mandalay that has the potential to someday be beautiful. Right now it's just a slough. I'm standing on what was probably originally a wagon and pedestrian bridge. It had lines to it. Notice these curved lines here. And down at the end you can see the remnant of something that was part of its original design. Now it's just barely not falling into the lake or slough or whatever this is. Interesting, there's a Ferris wheel. So where we are on the map is right where my thumb is, this slight faint diagonal line coming down. I've just gone up the left side, and now I'll try to navigate over here to 89th Street where I hope to see some things. I think there were temples. It's unclear. Directions are pretty unclear. I think if I backtrack just slightly and go up over in this area here, there's supposed to be an afternoon market, so I'll go see if that's the case. There's a little dog, a little puppy trying to make friends with that big giant pig. The pig doesn't quite know what to make of it. It reminds him of a piglet. Maybe the dog's getting bored now, yeah. That's not much fun. Come on, you can play, come on. I'm just going to settle down next to the pig and be friends. Looks big enough to be my mom. The back end looks like. I'll play with this little thing at the end here. What's this? Nah, that's no fun. Just going to play around with it. Come on, you can play. Just because you're big fat doesn't mean you can't play. Come on, play. Come on, come on, come on, come on. This could be fun. I did this with my mom. She thought it was fun. What's wrong with you? There's gotta be something fun here to play with. That was bigger. This ham hock if we was some. These ladies are carrying one, probably 50 or 100 pound bag of rice, and now two of whatever they are. And they probably make less than $5 a day if they're lucky. There's one compacted, busy waterfront. Incidentally, this is my room for $20 in Mandalay. A sink and toilet shower area. This morning, I believe the 16th of December 2015, we'll leave on one of these boats. We're going to a small town north of here to Mingun. Just a half-day trip. So now we have to maneuver ourselves out of in between these two boats. We're going to move this one out of the way, I guess, and then open up the hole so we can get out.
Actually, those are really nice, like plain black. Like
This runs with no engine, just pulling his way down. I wonder if he pulls his way back up. The learned skill, I'm pretty darn sure, the ability to jump up there and perch on that wall. It's the map. We got off right about where it says Pong down lower right there, and or Poing, and I'm walking up the main drag, the large blue line, up to Hsinbyume Pagoda. Most of my fellow passengers stopped off at the major sites, but I'll hit those on the way back. The entire street, of course, is lined with tour shops because I rather guess that a little bit later this morning, tour buses and or vans will arrive. Some of the traditional homes. This is rather novel and kind of spectacular. I see a railing going up along that right side, so maybe we can actually climb up and find out in a minute or so. This may have been the original entry point, but now we just climb over the wall and more stupas going back towards the main stupa that we'll walk back towards you in a few moments. Here we get to the no-shoe zone. Now our entry. Probably using the same general concept we've seen, a series of concentric walkways, these at different elevations. As you can see, there are parallel walkways. There are 3 walkways. The main one, and then the one I'm going up now. These are filled with probably Buddhas. What's interesting is in the past were all these individually painted and with an array of color, including the detail we see here on the stairway we're hopefully allowed to walk up. This time we'll use the center one just to avoid the sun. We probably find 4 Buddhas arrayed on the cardinal sides. Some of the original doors that protected the Buddha no longer do. And here a ladder for the workman or the intrepid to go even higher. More niches and places where you can put your joss sticks. Probably all these niches were once filled with Buddhas, but no longer. It occurred to me if Christians had to climb this high to worship, they probably wouldn't. There's the mucky muck of all stupas, unfinished apparently. And we're now looking back towards Yangon, which we cannot see in haze of home smoke fires and pollution from vehicles. And there only is one entrance to this higher level, so we can't gain a good panorama view, but those may be the Shan Mountains. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Everywhere are pagodas, it seems. I think they are celebrating the fact that I made it to the top and appear to have been making it back down safely. You think? Here another pagoda, and perhaps a quasi-monk monastery, because there is a building there that houses them, to be restored at a later time. Into the bathroom here on this trail, faint trail, but something else is rooted in the garbage here for something. Dog, pig, human, don't know. Here's the entry to this older pagoda. Here's some hand-rolled shrubs for sale. This temple houses a massive bell. I think it is the first or the second largest uncracked bell. What I most love is this wood carving. Seems so elegant, so exquisite, so ancient, and yet it may not be, but it weathers that way. Look at the supports for it. The kind of supports that would hold perhaps a crane. This is the dormitory for the folks that live here, with their mosquito netting for when it's needed in the evenings. So here we are, and from here we climb. Hope that those cracks don't give way, or that huge block of brick is leaning right over the stairs. Climbing just became too dangerous right there. I'll leave it up to the young and confident. Look at the top of this. This whole thing is in a state of collapse. The next earthquake will rocket it down a little bit farther. There's where we were a few minutes ago. And the Irawaddy. Some young people think it's good to encourage old people to do what they can do. It's not. I have to tell a young man that if he keeps talking to me about what he wants me to do, I can't think, and therefore I'm in danger. He got the point. Stop talking to me. Look at the size of that crack on the left. My guess is that this was probably already a hill, and they just built these walls, which seem substantial, around the hill, and then put a stupa up on top, or we're going to. I don't think they got that far. It's kind of sad here in a way. The ignorance is so profound that there they've got food for sale and birds sitting there eating on it. No European or American's going to buy any of that food. It certainly was a dramatic conception here right on the river. All that used the river would have been in awe. Here another, looks like a temple with a pagoda on top. And here an old boat that we need to get a closer look at, and we will. This is interesting. You wonder if it's an old portion of this temple that fell off. Protective lions. Pretty in its simple whiteness. You wonder if it's always been that way, or if all this detail used to be richly painted. It's a little bit different. Here you have the Buddhas arrayed to the outside, the perimeter of the interior part of the building, facing in towards the center point, and as you can see, each other. We're standing at the edge of a curved platform, and in between those lion types are stairs and a platform that goes lower, presumably to accept boats at certain times of the year that would allow their occupants to disembark and approach directly up to this temple. And made to be dramatic with this set of 4 cascading Buddhas. This has the curious look of a European crypt. Or any other crypt. But I haven't seen one here on this trip. Had a front prow on it too, probably something decorative, that's the norm. Notice this is held together with straps of metal. Whether that was a later innovation, I don't know. Whether this was from one single tree, it was the bumper along the side to protect it when it runs up against poles at a dock. And notice how it's fractured there. Sometime it was repaired. Here we get an idea of the interior structure. It looks like it used from side to side ribs, but nothing the length of it other than its own structure. Although perhaps those pieces along the top did so. And it looks like they might have held oarlocks. And there were some cross members. We can see that one in the middle there. This is the city park, an amusement park. And somewhere in here there's a Ferris wheel. You could see it from the water. And there is a merry-go-round. Here I am riding in one of these things, and the price is $3,000, but I think he's working far too hard for that. So I'm going to probably get off and give him a couple of thousand after a little while. And because we're just going up a little bit of an incline, and it's really humping to make him get up over the top of this. I'm going to send him on his way with 1,000 chop just for a couple of blocks. I had my goal, which was to ride in that. It's like rickshaws in China. It's just too damn much work. And it embarrasses me when you get two fat Americans sitting in a rickshaw paying some guy whatever the hell they're paying them to haul their fat asses around. I'm going to ride with this man in this little, it's a motorcycle, RLF3 motorcycle trucky thing. Okay, so I will do for $5,000, which is about $4. It'll be quick, it'll be fun, and that old man doesn't have to bust his ass trying. And this will give you a little idea of what it's like to ride around on Mandalay Road. Now it's smoother now. It's one thing to haul around a bunch of bananas, it's another thing to haul around a fat human being. And this guy knows the back streets. This is interesting. This looks like some kind of a set up for a show. Yes, it is. I'm not sure that truck's going to move and let us out of here, but another use for that one that I was riding in. If you're a young stud like this guy here, it probably works. It probably doesn't weigh all that much. He's a lot stronger than the old fella was. This much fun in a long time. That's 35th Street, the main street route that I'm off of, but he's gonna go by side streets. Cows roam around here and eat whatever's been put out for them. Probably slightly offended at having cows encroach on their territory. And one of those cows gets angry and drop kicks that dog. Now entering Amanapura. We've stopped at. It's not in the guidebooks, he says, and we've got time before we go see the monks line up. There's some interesting characters here. Look like little dolls that you can buy, I've seen in different countries. Big versions. You're coming in from the main road to this temple complex. You see these pretty elephants. Now we'll enter in this other main entrance. There's a lot of interest here. I'll pan across this curious stupa type thing. It reminds me of something called the Big Golden Rock down near Yangon. I didn't go see it, but it's in the guidebooks. And here a large reclining Buddha protected. This is seemingly alluding to one of those obelisks that we've seen before, but far more detailed and definitive. And here a very tall and protected Buddha sitting on its platform of curled snakes. And here we'll enter into this very pretty temple and go inside. This is very pretty from the outside, so it'll be interesting to see what's on the inside. And you notice this large fan. I've referred to those as protecting the monk from the sun, but their primary original purpose was to protect their view from women who are distracting to the meditating Buddha. Not to mention a bunch of other things. Getting in a little closer before we enter. A couple of most realistic tigers. Remember the old adage, more Buddhas is good. It's uncanny how these things, places that are designed like this, with their multiple arches and pillars, remind me of Muslim mosques. The mosques generally incredibly simple compared to this, but that same sense of multiplicity and depth. Here perhaps a collection of prized smaller Buddhas and women, females for some reason. And if this reflects the general design we've seen of temples, we should be going deeper and deeper from corridor to inner corridor to inner corridor until here we should find the Buddha behind that grill work is another Buddha with some large jewels, if you can see those. The close-up view of those devices that sit on top of stupas and temples. Each Buddha is in fact a separate little shrine. These supporting characters, perhaps gnats or spirits. See behind the screen the obligatory umbrellas, but quite a few of them in this case. And some different forms of Buddhas here. And here a Buddha that's been incredibly embellished, perhaps with gold leaf. Here we get a very quick look at a Chinese temple. What I always like about the Chinese temples is the wonderful colors and oftentimes that carving that we see along the perimeter. as well as these nice big pillars. This kind of detail. And the little vignettes. And of course their way of telling stories. What stories I don't know, but man, they're in the stocks. And this appears to be the military. That's what I like about the Chinese. This architecture is so dramatic, so pretty, so detailed. The roof line so classic. That's for burning incense. I think I really did enjoy China a lot more than I even recall. And I have nothing but good memories of China. I guess in a word it's summed with exotic. I'm now remembering that the colors of faces indicates something about the character of the individuals. Got Buddha reigns here also. It may be a mix of religions though. So down this street before me, in a few minutes we'll go over 1,000 monks en route to eat, and they'll eat in that dormitory there. They eat twice a day, once at 5 o'clock and once at 10 o'clock. And the tourists come here to take videos of them doing so. And apparently there's 2 long lines. Where it starts I don't know, although there's a bunch of monks down there. My guess is that's where they're starting. But all around me you can see them starting to gather, and they'll gather in a queue. I guess first come, first serve, from various buildings around this very large monastery that house them. The little ones can start first if they wish. Remember, they don't all necessarily have to stay for their lifetime. In fact, I think a great percentage of them do not stay for their lifetime, some for as short a period of time as a day. Others for longer, maybe 3 months, a month, and then others indefinitely, including once they make a commitment for the rest of their life, but they're free to leave or come back whenever they wish, as long as they do not violate the precepts of being a monk. In order to become human, as opposed to all other living beings, you have to have been a monk, even if it's only for a short period of time, like a matter of hours or days, I believe. Interesting that, like British schools and some other school systems, you cannot distinguish between those people that come from wealthy families and those who come from poor, because they of course all dress the same. In fact, they have exactly the same equipment, although I think colors may vary, not of their outfits, but sometimes other devices like the bowl they're carrying, etc. And you can see the double line queuing up right now. Notice that very few carry the fan, and perhaps because the older you get, the more you have to avoid the distraction of women. And notice he wears socks. Very novel, monk or otherwise. Older monks also have sandals. All the rest of the younger monks we see have none. A bit of individuality that they have is apparently the cloth, or whatever its purpose is, that they carry on their shoulders, or on their arms rather. They're different colors. Everything else is ubiquitous. Those who are hungriest show up first in queue. Interesting is, why are those monks allowing one line to be longer than the other? You'd think the shorter line would get you the food quicker. The one young monk who is a guide, he looks to be about 26 or 7 or 8. Hard to tell. Shaved heads. He's been a monk for 7 years and hopes to be a monk for the rest of his life because it is such a peaceful life. Given the chaoticness of Myanmar's cities, that would be an understatement. And since patience is a virtue, I suspect that even those who come late well anticipate that they must have patience. About it, far short of 1,000, so where the rest are, I have no clue. And a rather anticlimactic experience, really. I've seen the same thing, not as many monks, but a line of maybe 50. Actually, one time I saw a line of 50 on both sides of the street at the same time. Maybe it reflects double line concept. The monks stop perhaps for a free drink of water before they go in for dinner. I don't know. I don't think the Myanmar culture presumes one should drink during a meal. I don't think it's prohibited, but... So they take the corner down there and then file into what we could call the mess. Seating themselves at these tables. Where they will have curry and rice and maybe chicken and pork, if that has been donated. There are rows and rows of sandals that they will leave there as they go to dinner. Appears to be some rearranging of the garments before they eat. For what purpose, I don't know. The food laid out in bowls, which I suspect they will eat with their hands, their fingers. And there you can see the cloths are used like napkins laid across their waist. Here I can invade the sanctity of their meal. With the impunity of a telephoto lens. Now no one has started to eat yet, so I assume there is a moment when that occurs. Interesting, because that room does not look like it's large enough to hold monks that are supposed to be going in there. And they are still going in there. Perhaps the building goes on to another building, or at least far beyond the dimension I'm seeing now. There is still another room, so now a chanting has begun. But not by all. Being done, there's the rustle of lids being removed from begging bowls. And it looks like they're putting food, or condiments at least, into their begging bowls where they may have other food, like rice. In fact, maybe they picked up the rice on the way in. Probably many of these buildings that I'm looking at are either dormitories or classrooms or something of that nature. Here, what looks to be a clock tower. The clock tower found in apparently the most large monasteries in Mandalay, at least. Here we're in a traditional silk shop, set up, of course, as an adjunct to a tourist shop, which is fine. Notice how this device shoots that spindle across. They don't call it a spindle, I forget what they call it. Look at how this thing is jury-rigged up, but jury-rigged so that it works. Shuttle, that's what they call it, I believe. Notice how he has far more of those vertical, whatever they are, probably providing individual colors. Not really though, no. Notice how he alternately pulls them up and down, and my guess is that by doing that in that sequence, he's able to get this complex undulation and pattern, if you will. Here they're loading up small spindles from, I think, those large ones, just a guess. Large ones are what she's gonna refill those, apparently. It's a little bench she sits on, so she uses this like a spinning wheel to load those larger. Guess is that maybe that woman there will be the operator, and she's simply setting herself up or setting someone else up. So I'm not sure. And that may be wax. Yes, it is. Feels like wax. Probably to give smoothness or texture, or to make the thread move more easily. We're looking at this loom, and they have instructions there, notice. But here we see a whole pattern along here of colorations, presumably of threads, that by manipulating these devices here, they're able to control the pattern. But this is much more intricate work, so. So this is like a number of very small shovels that she has to use very precisely to get the pattern that she's after. Notice how she refills that with the thread that she needs from those tiny little bobbins. Having tightened it up by pulling this mechanism back, I think they will begin again. But notice that there's her music sheet, if you will. And notice she chooses precisely the number of threads that she needs to put each of those little shuttlecocks underneath, giving them their individual color to create the undulation in that pattern. It's a very intricate pattern. I think he's pulling that thread off of those large bobkins over there, but I can't really see them moving, so I don't know how the thread's coming off there. But I think he's controlling it with his hand. I'm looking for the string, but I can't see it. Coming from here somewhere. He's grabbing it now. There, he's getting it. Checks. Ah, yes. Oh, there's the pattern that you'll ultimately see. What we see up here is not the pattern. There's the pattern. And she used the mirror to check. Thank you. Disobey. So all this detailed work for every single line across that fabric takes all of this individual detailed working of those little colored, those shuttles with their different colored strings, and she has to keep them in the correct order. Wow. Such intelligence, dexterity, such skill, such knowledge implied by what we're looking at now. Absolutely humbling, considering I've never developed that level of skill at anything except talking. Just like a musician, she has a scorecard. What it means, but notice, right, left, we assume that that's what the R and the L stands for.